He may be one of Britain's best-loved comedians.
It was one of the most awful things I ever saw in my life, and yet funny.
But there was nothing funny about Billy Connolly's early life. You could say it was positively Dickensian. A mother who abandoned him, though he would meet her again years later. A father who abused him.
Have you had enough? What a stupid question.
Billy lived in poverty in Glasgow, left school to work in the shipyards, also worked as a musician. Actually, later played in a folk duo with the late Jerry Rafferty. Yes, Jerry Rafferty.
You're crying now.
Between songs, Billy would tell stories, and before long he was one of the UK's biggest stand-ups. Larger than life, perfectly suited for film and television.
You will stand up straight, or I will personally kick every Far Eastern bannock that appeared before my eye!
You can look for him in the upcoming Hobbit movies and in the great new film Quartet, directed by Dustin Hoffman, one of my favorites from last year's Toronto Film Festival. Billy plays a retired opera singer who, like Billy, knows that growing old doesn't have to mean growing up.
Fancy for a little rumpy-pumpy?
Qu'est-ce que c'est, rumpy-pumpy?
Please welcome Billy Connolly. Billy Connolly. Nice to see you, sir.
George, how lovely to see you again.
How are you?
Great. Hello.
Welcome back.
Hello, especially you. I'm going to completely disregard you from this second on, so I'll give you a good look. Bye.
How very thoughtful of you. This
Nothing but good taste oozes from me.
Congrats on the film.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm very proud of it.
You should be. It's one of the best films I've seen all year. I mean that sincerely. It seems like such an honest film, and for a Dustin Hoffman debut as a director, like, what an experience that must have been.
That's what he says. He said it's his first directorial job, but I think he's been directing himself for years. Yeah. When you listen to his stories about doing movies, I think all those times when he said, "Can I try that just once more this way?" Yeah. He was directing himself, you know, all those years. Sure. I think they called it a perfectionist, not a director. I went to see it last night. I hadn't seen it before.
Anxiety before the film?
Oh my God, I hate it. I hate watching myself. Because you walk on and you think, oh, it's me again. So you think, maybe just once it'll be Robert De Niro, you know?
Is there any particular poignancy when you're doing a film about aging and how some are better at it than others? And it's not like aging in your 50s or 60s. This is a movie about people who have essentially been kind of put out to pasture in a way.
I think the trick is not to grow up. You know, by all means grow old, but there's no, growing up is always someone else's idea. I've never heard anybody saying, I think I'll grow up for a while. Next Wednesday, I think I'll grow up. You know? Yeah, that's maybe a fortnight's time.
It's other people telling you, you need to grow up.
It's time you did, so you've got some growing up to do, my boy, mister.
Did you hear that a lot?
Your father call you mister when it comes to that. You've got some growing up to do, mister.
Did you hear that a lot?
Oh, I still hear it.
And how do you respond?
2 words.
Yeah. I bet you I know at least one of those words. Off is one, or you. One of those ones, for sure. I want to play a clip of this lovely woman.
Oh, you got a clip?
In this conversation. Watch this.
Well, hello, and tonight I'm talking to Billy Connolly, a well-known Scottish comedian. Billy, I understand that when you first came to England, people had a lot of trouble understanding your accent. Is that right?
Sorry?
It's a TV show called Not the 9 O'Clock News.
Yeah.
Pamela Stevenson, right?
That's the day I met my wife.
That's the day you met your wife.
And that's how they're, yeah.
Did you know when she was interviewing you that you're like, I fancy this girl?
Yes, I did, but I thought she was a bit out of my depth, you know, because you know she was hanging out with all those Oxford, Cambridge types, and I thought, well, you know, I'm the welder. I don't have much of a chance here, so I just didn't bother. Mm-hmm. Then a couple of months later, I was playing in Brighton, and a little autograph hunter said, Pamela Stevenson's here. And then he met her and said, Billy Connolly's here. And she came to the gig, and well, I shouldn't really tell this, but I'm gonna. She's a pushy kind of broad, my wife. I was a bit drunk, you know. In those days, I used to finish very bravely. and I had about 20 brandies or something. I remember all the miniatures. It was like one of those.
Starting bravely too. 20 brandies.
You know those little miniature bottles? I had them all lined up. And then I said, oh, where did she go? You know, she'd disappeared for ages. And then the barman said, "It's a call for you." And I said, "Oh yeah," and I went over. And I said, "Hello," and she said, and it was Pam. She said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm in the bar." She said, "Get your ass up here." And I said, "Where are you?" She said, "I'm in your bed."
There you go.
And that was nearly 30 years ago, and 3 children.
What kind of father are you?
I think I'm okay.
You had a complicated and tragic relationship with your father, but you seemed to come, last time you were here, you talked about it, that you found your way through it.
Yeah, you can get beyond all that stuff, you know, that sexual abuse or physical abuse and all that. Forgiveness is a wonderful thing. You can forgive people, even when they're dead. And it goes away, the way it comes off you. You must remember that you're the victim. Like my mother went shot off with another guy. And he left his family, she left hers, and off they went to live at the seaside. Yeah. And I'd left my sister and I.
And how old were you?
I was 4.
Right.
And you think, oh, that's a terrible thing, but you have to take into consideration the Germans were dropping bombs in my town, the world was at war, everything was hellish, and she was a teenager. You have to take it all into consideration.
Right.
And then when I met her later in life, I thought, do you know, when I met my mother, I thought she wanted an autograph.
Really? What?
Yeah, she was backstage and she said, "Are you Billy Connolly?" I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "I'm your mother." And oh my God.
That's a trip.
Yeah. I said to her, "Well, we better go into the lounge." There was a lounge bar, and she said, "I hope you don't drink too much." I said, "What, you're worried about me?" A birthday card would have been nice.
You go back and tell your wife, "Hey, guess what?"
Not only that, I remembered her husband when he was her boyfriend, when I was only 3 or 4. And I only saw him once. And it was a very dramatic scene. It would be a good scene in a movie. I went through to see her to her bedroom. And I remember I was only wearing a little vest, you know. I went through in my bare feet and I opened the door and he was sitting. I didn't know who he was. He was putting his socks on. And he saw me and he put his foot up like that and he put it on my forehead and put me out the door and shut the door with his foot like that. And we walked into her living room, and I'm now 26, and he's sitting there and he's not very well, sitting at the fire, and I thought, you bastard. And then I thought, nah, you're just an old guy.
Yeah. And so you get to have that experience and then just be by yourself on stage doing an act.
Yeah, that's the scariest.
Is it?
Oh, yes.
Even after all these years?
It gets worse.
Yeah.
It gets more and more scary as time goes by.
I heard that you've been getting into it with hecklers more and more than you used to, and even walked off stage.
No, it was some. I didn't walk. I've never walked off. I mean, I've got hecklers on the albums.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really care. I don't like them, but they're just a rotten fact of life. I punched a guy once. He kept requesting a song called "Needle of Death." It's a song about heroin. I'm a comedian, you know. And I played the banjo in those days. He went, "Needle of Death!" I said, "I don't know it. Sorry." Because banjo songs are all about chicken pie, rabbits stuck in logs and raccoons up trees and stuff. Yeah. Oh, there's a rabbit in the log and I ain't got no dog. Needle of Death. I said, "Oh, come on, give me a break." I said, "I don't know this. I keep telling you, if I knew the song, I would happily do it. It would sound weird on a banjo and diddle-dong-dong-dong. Oh, needle of death. Dun, 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 dun. I said, "I don't know it." So, end of story. Needle of death. I said, "Do me a favor, just stay where you are." The banjo didn't.
Did he go down?
He was the treasurer of the club. I didn't get paid.
You have to see the film Quartet. It's an unbelievable film. Billy Connolly is amazing in it. We'll be right back.